I had a taste of RPGs with Magic and Mayhem. It was kind of a game we made, which was kind of a real-time strategy game. It kind of it organically developed into an RPG, and I got that first taste of it. Really enjoyed it. I've personally always liked RPGs, but specifically the big ones. I've played Zelda and Final Fantasy, so the opportunity to do Sudeki, which, you know, in these early days had those kind of real strong kind of manga influences, and it just looked like something new and interesting to do. So there was no choice about whether to attempt to do the game or not. It's just, as an ambitious person, you just go for it. And I think the company perspective, for a long time, Climax has been looking for that really big game, and they've for a long time had the skills and experience to do it. We've been in the industry a long time doing console stuff. The story is influenced by traditional RPG in many senses, but we kind of add contemporary aspects with humour that's kind of quite modern and based around 4 heroes who have this history that ties in with these gods of the past. Unknown to you as you start the game, you are the 4 heroes working through the game to kind of unravel the deceit and that's going on in the world and help join them together. And the power of the gods kind of lingers around in characters, these massive spirit-strike demons that each of the heroes can summon to help them during combat situations. So they're all kind of linked, but it's not known to the player at the start that they are linked. So the plot unveils with this kind of twists and turns, and you gradually find out the whole story as the game goes on, and eventually kind of to its conclusion at the end. I don't really want to give away, but it is quite like you say, quite traditional RPG, but we introduce a lot of humour elements with the 2 girls, the 2 sexy girls, both have a little bit of a thing for one of the main characters. The emphasis has always been on the control of the party, so at any point during combat or any point during any location, you can switch between the characters dynamically in your party at the time. The other characters will follow you around at all times, and they'll be there, and quite often they'll interact as well together, or they'll interact during kind of some of the movies that explain some of the story. They'll be there, and kind of depending on which one you've got selected as well, you'll get different responses from the NPCs that you talk to. But during combat, anytime during combat scenario, you can switch from one character to the other, and each character's got its own advantages in combat, so the choice of which character you're controlling is often quite important. But then you've got the other characters that are on AI control, and you've even got control over them through the AI state. So at any point during the game, you can quickly bring up the menu, change the AI behaviour of one of the other characters to, for instance, Tal, the swordsman. At any point during the game, you can just tell him to be a blood brother, which is one of his AI states. And his blood brother state he'll attack any enemy that you've got targeted at the moment. Like, he's your blood brother, he'll fight with you. At any point, you can just change him to defend you. So any enemy that comes near you that you haven't got targeted, he will slay for you. Or you can set him on Juggernaut mode, where he'll just go in for the biggest enemy in the room. That kind of quick control has been fundamental to the game. We've got a very fast-paced game. So, and we want you to be able to feel that you're in control of the party all the time. So we've made the choice to keep the AI decisions very simple. So each character out of the 4 has 4 AI states, and they're very simple: retreat, blood brother, Juggernaut. And out of those states, each of those 4 states are unique to each character as well. So we kind of convey the character's personality through his AI state. About 250 in the whole game. Each of them is a completely unique character. They have unique animations and the conversations with the NPC, each one has its own personality, and they'll be recorded by a separate actor. And the actors that we have kind of give a lot of personality to the characters. So there's a lot of kind of personality in all of the NPCs in the game. We've kind of really put a lot of emphasis on that, and particularly with kind of we've got a broad range of accents in the game, particularly European and American accents as you go through the game. So you get to kind of get a lot of feeling of the whole world as you travel around the game. You'll get various different accents from character to character as well, which has been quite interesting. Absolutely real time. Absolutely, it's been a complete focus for the game. I mean, often to try and keep it a traditional RPG, we've obviously wanted to give the player strategic choices to make during combat. And and there are a lot of traditional elements in a combat system as well. So there's different types of damage that you can do. You can do piercing damage or slashing damage, and the enemies can do that to you as well. So you can have armor that protects you against slashing damage. It's not particularly good against piercing damage. So your choice of armor is important, and your choice of weapon, and your choice of attack. So all of these decisions you have to make, and there's elemental damage involved as well. So you've got fire, wind and water damage. We've wanted to give player the choice to change armor during combat, change weapons during combat, change AI state during combat, or choose from one of the strategic skill moves or the spirit strike moves during combat. So obviously we understand that they're having to think about that while they're playing. But we don't want to pause the game. We want it to be flowing in real time all the time. So we have to make a lot of kind of careful decisions about it. And one of the really big decisions that's really helped the game be quite unique is the kind of quick menu system. We have this quick menu. You fire it just by pressing one button. It brings up this sub menu and you're still viewing the motion while it's going on. So the combat doesn't stop when you bring up the menu. It carries on in slow motion. And so you've got the flexibility there to be able to combine the information that you're getting as a player in a traditional sense, but still keep it flowing in real time and fast paced, which is what we feel kind of keeps this game completely fresh as an RPG experience. It's completely fast and smooth and motion all the time during combat. Apart from obviously the armor that you collect as you go throughout the game, the weapons that you collect and the items that you collect, the kind of statistics that the characters have that you develop and you choose to develop as the game goes on. So you have strength, speed, you have wisdom, and these things kind of improve your skills. Your magical skills will be boosted by your wisdom, or your typical damage weapons will be boosted by your strength, and your agility will slightly improve your speed during combat. They're developable on all of the characters, but you can also develop the characters' resistances to elemental damage, or you can develop the characters' resistances to the statuses, which are quite fundamental to the strategy of the combat as well. There are kind of statuses like poison, where you're kind of losing health over time, or slow, for instance, where your character's reduced into kind of a slow motion state, so you're less effective during combat. And the enemies can cause these statuses, so it's quite key to get used to which enemies cause which statuses. And so the characters can develop their resistances against those statuses as well. So you kind of, if you know, for instance, that you've developed Tal's resistance against slow, or Tal's resistance against poison, and you're in a situation when you're fighting against lots of enemies that have got poison, you may choose to control Tal because you know you've developed his resistance against, and let the AI control the other characters. And then you may choose to set the other characters on retreat so they generally stay out of the way and just fight your way through with Tal. They're fantasy based. It's fair to say that pretty much all the weapons are fantasy based. I mean, some of Elko's guns are quite traditional guns. He's got a Colt 45. Most of his guns are kind of techno-scientist makeups that he's made himself. And Ailish's weapons are all staffs of varying different sorts. Tal's are all swords, he's the swordsman, and Buki's are these kind of claws that kind of increase in size as she unsheathes them from the sides of her legs. So they all have this single weapon type. We explored the idea of kind of allowing them to use different weapon types. It just put another choice in the player's mind, and we come back to the fact that this is quite a fast-paced combat system, and there's a lot for the player to think about already. This game hasn't got any Xbox Live compatibility, but it's certainly in all of the plans for the sequel that are certainly being concepted at the moment and thought about, taking into account the Xbox Live and multiplayer aspects that a lot of people have asked for in the game. The style's been really held true to throughout the whole game's development, although the style's developed to become more mature as the game's gone on. It was a more cutesy in the early days, and we've kind of gone for a much more mature style to the characters and that, so they've developed a lot over the time. We're expecting 35 hours, and we've kind of predicted that. We've made some assessments on the amount of time it's taken to play levels through the usability studies and stuff like that. So we're predicting about 35 hours at the moment. We expect you to meet all 4 characters within the first hour, but you won't necessarily get to experience combat with all 4 of those characters within the first hour. So we'll be introducing the characters to you so you can learn them gradually as the game goes on.